Morning. Welcome to episode 2 of Coffee and Crochet with Karen. I'm so excited you're here. I'm really excited about the response I got last week to episode 1, and I really hope that you enjoy these videos that I'm doing as much as I do. It's been a crazy week for me. I couldn't say anything before, but this past weekend, my family started coming into town on Friday for a surprise birthday party for my husband's 60th birthday. All of his family, his mom, and all of his siblings and their spouses all came to Washington, and we surprised him with a family photo shoot and then had a catered lunch, and we got brought in dinner. So it's been a really cool week this past week. So I'm a little tired, but I just, it's been such a great week. And I know this week's going to be a little more blah because I'm not planning anything, but I am going to go see my grandson this coming weekend. So I'm really excited about that. But I hope you guys are having a great start to your week. Today it's really overcast here and cool. The high is supposed to be 65, and over the weekend we were in the 80s. So we're getting that weird early fall weather here in the high desert. But so you see me, I'm here in a long sleeve shirt and my spooky web shawl that that I am wearing right now. It's hard for me to talk. I guess I need more coffee this morning. But let's just go ahead and get started. So there's nothing new in the studio, so let's go right away to what's new in the shop. Okay, so I mentioned Spooky Web. I'm wearing it right now. This is actually in my shop right now. If you are a newsletter subscriber, you should have gotten an email from me yesterday with the 35% off code for this pattern. It is made with fingering weight yarn. It's got this cool little, I guess I can take it off. It's got this cool little spider webby lace edge. It's made from side to side, so from short edge to short edge. It's a really great pattern. So if you are interested in getting that, just go to my website, and I will actually link the pattern at the bottom of this in the show notes at the bottom of this video. So make sure you check it out. If you are a newsletter subscriber, only newsletter subscribers get 35% off all my new releases. So it went live Tuesday the 10th, and I'm already getting a lot of people commenting and purchasing the pattern from the newsletter. I just want to let you guys know 35% off is only for the newsletter subscribers. So make sure you take advantage of that. And if you're not a newsletter subscriber, make sure you subscribe using the link in the show notes. I will have it kind of highlighted there somehow so that you guys can see the subscription link to subscribe to my newsletter. And you'll get a free pattern when you subscribe. And I'll post a picture here when I find it to show you what the free pattern is as well. Okay, so let's go on to projects. So with projects, you guys probably know this already. I think I've talked about it, that I'm doing a little program this month on socks and crocheting socks. And this is how far I am so far. I've got the heel flap and the heel turn done. The heel turn is that narrow. Let's see if I can do it this way without all the tails showing. You'll see how I have decreases here that kind of make it round on either side. That is your heel turn, and what that does is that cups your heel. So when you put your sock on, you've got a little bit of the heel underneath your foot. If you look at even commercial socks, they all have that little cup that allows your foot to go in there. And I'm going to be working on the gusset portion today. So that's what I'm working on right here. I really love this yarn. It's from Rose and Roses. It's her Bleeding Hearts sock set. I don't know if she still has them on her site, but I will put a link in the show notes about this yarn. So check her out. She's a great dyer. I love her colors, and it's really bright. You can see how bright these colors are. I'm not normally a pink and purple person, but I really liked how this set comes together, and I can't wait to get the foot done with this variegated. So that's the first project. And then the second project I want to show you is, I didn't mention this last week. I may have mentioned it, but I didn't show it to you. I'm also a knitter, for those of you who don't know. I'm knitting these fingerless mitts for my son. This is using the fiber seed, and it's a colorway she no longer dyes. It's called Ranunculus. And I had made him a hat several years ago using this yarn. He asked me for mitts to match. And so this is the mitts. I got one done. I've got the second one. I had to rip out the whole top part because I completely forgot to divide for the thumb. I had gotten all the way up to where I was going to do this rib that's at the top and realized I didn't separate for the thumb. So I had to rip everything out. It was like 30 rows. And I am right now, you can see all the stitch markers in there, getting ready to do the lace panel and to increase for the thumb. This is a great little pattern. It's called Bon Bon. It's from Joji Locatelli. It was in a Pom Pom magazine. I don't remember which issue. Let me look at the pattern. No, it doesn't say which issue on the pattern. I got a digital version and I was able to individually print that pattern out. So it doesn't have the actual issue, but I will try to look it up and put it in the show notes for you. So if you're interested in knitting a pair of mitts, you can check that one out. And then the final project I want to talk about, no, I forgot to grab it. Okay, so the final project I'm working on is, and I can't remember if I showed you this last week or not, but this is Forbidden Fibers Fortitude Base. It's a fingering weight yarn in her colorway Pomegranate, and she does this as one of her fall colors, and I know that it is in her shop right now. It's a really gorgeous kind of burgundy, reddish pomegranate color, but you can see there's a lot of black overtones on it. I really love it. And here is the swatch. This is actually going to be a sweater done in fingering weight yarn. It probably will not be released until sometime next year, but I did do a swatch and I'm going to be working on that this week. I've got all of the sizes graded. I go from a extra small to a 5X, and this is going to have somewhere between 6 and 10 inches of ease so that you can easily adjust. If you like a sweater a little tighter, you can go down from your normal size. If you like a sweater a little bit bigger, you can go up a size. But the finished size for each size is going to be 6 inches, roughly bigger than the body recommendation, final, the actual body's bust size and hip size and all of that. So that is what I'm working on this week. I'm going to be actually starting the back. Hopefully I'll have something to show you next week. It's just going to be a classic cardigan. I haven't decided. The only thing I haven't decided about it is if I'm going to do a crew neck on the cardigan or if I'm going to do a V-neck on the cardigan. So I'd really love it if you would put in the comments which kind of neckline you like for your sweaters, whether it's a pullover or a cardigan. If you like a crew neck, you like a V-neck, or you don't really care, I'd love to know, because that would give me some ideas on, once I get to the front of the cardigan, whether or not I'm going to do the V-neck. Now, I'll be honest with you, personally love V-necks, but I know a lot of people like crew necks. So let me know in the comments. Definitely let me know in the comments. I'd really, really, really like to hear that. Okay, so now that swatch actually leads me in to my topic of the week. So the topic of the week this week is going to be swatching. And as I was making the swatch and blocking that swatch, and I have another swatch I'm going to show you here in just a second, I realized that a lot of crocheters hate swatching. I mean, I hear it in my classes all the time. Even with socks, you need to swatch. Anything that's going to fit your body, whether it's a sweater, a sock, a hat, gloves, anything that you want to wear, you need to swatch, because if you don't swatch, it's not going to turn out right. It's either not going to fit you at all, or it's going to be 100 times too big. So you want to swatch and make sure you're as close to your gauge as you can. One of the things, first of all, I should mention about gauge is that every pattern that's out there, the hook that is listed in the pattern is only a suggestion. That is the size the designer used. So like for me, I tend to use a 3.5 millimeter for all of my shawls. Anything I do in fingering weight, that's where I start. Most of the time, I like the drape on that. So sometimes I'll jump up to an F, which is a 3.75, or I'll jump down to a 3.25 or even a 3.0, depending on what kind of drape I need for a fingering weight shawl. But just because I got gauged with a 3.5 does not mean that your gauge is going to be the same with a 3.5. Even if you use the exact same hook, the exact same yarn, it is all due to how tightly or loosely you crochet. So don't feel like that if you try the hook that the designer used and you're not getting your gauge, that you're a failure. I hear that so often, and I don't want you to feel that way. So make sure that you do check your gauge. And if you know you're a tight crocheter, use a hook size higher than what the designer gives you. And if you know you're really loose, go down a hook size before you start swatching. But you should always swatch. Okay, so now let's talk about swatches. So I showed you this swatch, and I want to show you something that I do with swatches when I'm designing. I don't know that this would work as well. You probably would want to do this even if you are just making something for yourself or for a gift or for someone. But I always put a label on the swatch, and the label shows you the name of the brand of the yarn, of the colorway that I used, what size hook I used, and this tells me how many stitches and how many rows and what it measured before I blocked it. Okay, so this is the measurement before I blocked it, and there's the gauge unblocked, and then I give you the size blocked with the gauge once it's blocked. So you can see here the unblocked gauge, I had 22 stitches and 12 rows. And here when I blocked it, the rows were the same, 12 rows, but I only had 21 stitches for the gauge. So it was 6 by 6 for the blocked size, and this was 5.35 wide by 6 inches. So blocking is so important when you're checking your gauge, especially for a sweater. And you can see I just did regular double crochet for this because, like I said, this is going to be a simple sweater. So gauge and swatching is so important. This is blocked. I actually did a full wet block, which means I soaked it for 30 minutes so that it was really wet. I patted it dry, and then I put it on my blocking board, making sure that it was 6 by 6. Because that's what it was, the closest measurement to what my unblocked gauge was. And I pretty much try to, whenever I do a swatch, try to do it at least 6 by 6. I'm going to show you another swatch that's not blocked yet, but I do have a tag for it. I just haven't put the tag on it yet because I still need to block it, and I don't block with the tags on it. But this is from Savvy Skeins. This is her African Violets colorway. It's on her sock yarn. I think it's Sensible Sock is what she calls it. I have it partially written down. Yeah, Sensible Sock in African Violets. And again, I'm using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, just like I did on this one. And this one, I don't know if you can see that as well as I can. I'm going to try both sides. Okay, you can kind of see those are the Catherine wheels or the marguerites, what some people call marguerites. I call them Catherine wheels because that's how I learned them. I wanted to get some sort of cool little texture in there for another garment. I haven't decided what the garment's going to be yet, but this is unblocked. I haven't measured it. And I haven't gotten the gauge on this one yet, but you can see this is unblocked because you can see the sides are all wavy because that's what Catherine wheels do. I did start with a double crochet foundation double crochet row. And I won't be measuring that when I do my gauge, but I will measure that when I do the size of the swatch. But I just did that so I didn't have to start all the clusters on a chain. I didn't want to do that. So I just did a row of foundation doubles at the bottom. But you can see, if I were to measure this right now, because of the type of stitch it is, see how bumpy and wavy even the edges are? So that's why you need to do a gauge swatch and block it. So I'm going to be soaking it probably today or tomorrow and then blocking it out on my blocking board and getting the gauge in both directions. So that's what I wanted to show you on this. Swatching is so important because, again, if it's something that you're going to be trying to fit around something, even for amigurumi, I mean, if you don't mind the animal being too big or too small, that's fine. But because when I was first learning to crochet, and I'm probably going to really date myself here, there was a pattern out there by Annie's Attic, which is now Annie's Catalog, but back then it was Annie's Attic, and it was for little stuffed animals that were made with the egg, that the eggs nylons used to come in, and you would cover the egg, and you could make like an octopus. There was a giraffe. There was I think I made my sister an elephant. There were tigers and bears and all sorts of things in that pattern. And my mom used to use legs nylon. So we had all these eggs. So she actually bought the pattern book for me so that we could get rid of some of these eggs so she didn't feel weird about throwing them all in the garbage. And that's where I learned the importance of gauge. Because I would crochet, I didn't check my gauge. I just used the hook and the yarn that they recommended. And either my egg didn't fit. In most cases, I crocheted too tightly back then, or it was so big that the egg was floating around inside. So that's when I learned that when they're saying gauge, you need to do that. So that's why I wanted to do a short little clip here on gauge. Why swatching is so important, why gauge is so important. I'll do a future little topic of the week on actually how to measure your gauge and how to adjust your gauge if you need to. But I thought, because I'm swatching so much these last couple weeks, I would talk about swatching and why it's so important. But if you have any questions about swatching itself, you can even ask me questions about gauge. I'm glad to do that as well. But I really would like, if you have any questions about why swatching, how big your swatches should be. I always say at least 6 inches. Depending, if you can tell on this one, the scaffolding wheel, I did a lot bigger because the stitch is bigger and I wanted at least 5 repeats of the wheel in there. So this is a lot bigger than 6. So I can put these two together and show you that swatch is a lot bigger than the other one. And you always want to measure your gauge inside of those 6 inches, because you'll notice that on patterns, everything says like 21 stitches to 4 inches. You always want to measure in the middle. You never want to measure on the edges of your swatch, because if you measure on the edges of your swatch, it does distort your actual gauge. So that's something that's super important as well. Okay, so let's move on to comments and stories. So last week, I mentioned that I'd love it if you guys would comment on my video. I would answer any questions for you. If you had any stories that you wanted to talk to me about or share with me, I would love to hear them, and I'd read them online if you gave me permission. And it was so funny because part of when you sign up for my newsletter, I have a little welcome sequence that talks about me and how I learned to crochet. And I ask people to tell me their story about how they learned to crochet. And this person did not find me on YouTube, but Karen, who is a new subscriber to my newsletter, sent me this, and she gave me permission to share this with you. So I'm going to go ahead and just read it off my screen here. She said, "Hi, Karen. I'm relatively new to crochet. I tried to learn as a child from my left-handed mom. I'm right-handed, but that ended in frustration. My youngest daughter began crocheting while in college when her significant other and roommate encouraged her to try it out. After watching her and her friends buying yarns as gifts, I decided to take a class and try one more time. I'm so happy I did. My first project was a cowl using the V-stitch. Then I made 2 placemats using the moss stitch. Then I went to a chunky fuzzy yarn and made a modified waffle stitch blanket. Then I purchased a beautiful hand-dyed fingering weight yarn and made a scarf. I finished another fingering weight seashell patterned scarf and another cowl. I tried making a lantern-shaped granny square shawl. I tried making a lantern-shaped granny square shawl, but I found it frustrating and not enjoyable, so I pressed pause on that project. Now I've wore any I've never worn anything I've made other than a beanie winter hat. All the other wearables have been given as gifts, as I'm not a cowl wearing person. I would like to make a wrap or shawl out of fingering weight. I purchased 2 of your patterns and am intimidated by the instructions as I don't feel confident reading patterns where each row is different. To date, my biggest challenge was a scarf with a 4-row repeat. A local yarn shop owner in Florida recommended I look at your patterns and showed her what I was working on. And when she saw the yarn I purchased, I love the patterns you've created. I'm not sure my pattern reading skills are enough to be successful. All the best, Karen. Now, I just need to say, first of all, one of the things with my patterns I should always mention, and Karen, if you're watching, I honestly, truly meant this when I responded to you. If you ever get stuck with any of my patterns, I am a designer and teacher who is more than welcome to have you email me. I love it when you email me and say, hey, I'm having a problem. I'm stuck here. You just let me know where you're at and what the confusion is if you can. If you don't, just give me, say I'm on this row on this pattern and I don't understand this. And I am glad to answer you either via email. If you still can't figure it out, I'll do a little quick video for you. So don't feel that. But I was so excited to get this little note from Karen telling me about her crochet experience. And I'm so excited that she likes my pattern. So she shouldn't feel intimidated. I'm always there to help you all along the way. So please don't feel like you can't ask me a question. I'm glad to do that. She told me, she did send me an email saying that, telling me the name of the shop. So I did already email the shop and thank them for referring her to me. She said, I would be honored if you shared my story. I'm sure I was in single digits when Mom tried to teach me. My right-handed aunt then tried, and then I think I was probably too frustrated by that point to get it, which I have to laugh because it's when I learned to knit. When I learned to crochet, I was 7 years old, and then my other grandmother tried to teach me to knit, and I was so frustrated because, first of all, my grandmother wouldn't let me learn how to purl until I could knit a 4-inch square without dropping a stitch. And I was 7. So, that's not going to happen with a 7-year-old. But I had to say that, it took me 30 years between the time I learned to crochet and the time I learned to knit, just because I could not find somebody that could teach me to hold my yarn continental style in my left hand like I do when I crochet. So I had to just throw that in there. So Karen, I'm so glad you tried again. She said, I tried knitting in my late 30s when my co-teacher was teaching students with special needs to knit, but I was all thumbs with 2 needles and never finished the scarf I started. And that's exactly how I was with trying to learn to knit until I found somebody who could teach me continental. She's so glad she decided to try one more time. Crocheting opened up the nicest community of fiber artists I would have never met if I didn't try one more time. Now, isn't that true, everyone? I mean, when you find a new craft, in crochet, and you go to a yarn shop that's crochet friendly, or you go to a crochet guild meeting for the first time, or even an event where people are crocheting, you meet the nicest people. I mean, there's always those few, but I have never, ever been anywhere that we haven't had a lot of nice people around. So I hope that's true in your experience. And I'm so glad for Karen that was your experience as well. My local yarn shop, Blueberry Cottage in Plymouth, Indiana, is where I found the encouragement I needed to begin. So many wonderful and experienced stitchers have helped me along my journey. And then she talks about what her next projects are going to be. She's going to be doing a scarf for the Special Olympic Winter Games, and then she's going to try tackling one of my designs. So I'm really excited. And she said, thank you for the encouragement. And I'm always here to encourage you and everybody else. So everybody here who's watching too, know that I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. When I learned to crochet, my grandmother and I were the only 2 people I knew how to crochet. When I was in high school, my friends all told me that I was going to be the best grandma because I was crocheting at lunchtime and in between classes and doing all that kind of thing. So I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. When I found people on the internet, I was like shocked there was anybody else out there that did what I did. So I'm your biggest cheerleader. I hope you guys all know that too. Okay, let's go to some comments because I did get a ton of comments on the last video. So I'm going to pull up the comments here. I've got my iPad down here so that I can go scroll through them. So I have Carlene Roberts 6002. She said, love this, free yourself from the pressure of the shoulds. I enjoy visiting with you online whenever it works for you. And that's kind of what she's talking about, is the fact that I mentioned last week that I am going to slow down on the live streaming and I'm going to go more into the pre-recorded podcasts. So thank you, Carlene, for that. I really appreciate that. And then Senko Farms said, I was in high school and my bestie and I were delivering Meals on Wheels at a retirement building. And the sweet little old lady had these very cool pot holders. And she invited me back and she taught me how to make them. Been obsessed with yarn ever since then. So happy to see you podcasting. Blessings, Ellen. So thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for posting on here. That's a great story. And you know, it's funny too, because a lot of times that's what I've heard a lot of people say too, is that they were at a retirement home and they watched somebody making something and that person offered to teach them, or kids are in, you know, scouting and that kind of thing. So if anybody else has an experience like that, I'd love to hear it in the comments. So if you want to leave a comment on anybody's comments here, or if you have a story like Ellen just told us here and want to leave it in the comments, I'd love to do that because I'd like to read your comments every week and respond to them. I mean, I know I've responded to most of these online already, but you know, there's other things that might come up. So definitely, you know, tell me a story. And also I will have on my show notes, my email that you can send me an email at, and it's comments@KarenWhooley.com. So if you don't want to leave it in the comments, you want to send me an email, definitely do that too. So that's there. So let's move on to the next comment here. This one is from BCC WS channel 8254. And it's Liz. I know Liz. Sorry I missed you. I'll be back for the next episode. And I know I told her that I'm going to be doing these pre-recorded. So I'm really excited that she was able to watch it. Francis F527. This is Francis from New Zealand. I'm so excited she was able to watch. Click the like button. Great podcast. The lace edging would look lovely on the edge of a top. As you know, I love your socks. I can't believe I'm crocheting socks. It was my first crochet sock book, and they're great. Thanks to Francis. I'm so glad that that book is one of your favorites. And like I mentioned last week, it's still my best-selling book. So if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you watch episode 1, and I have the link to purchase that book or even just look at it in the show notes. But she was talking about the edging here on this. And after she sent me that email, I never would have thought to put this particular edging on the bottom of a sweater or a top of some sort, but I may do that. I may play with that idea in a future project. So I think that's a great idea, Francis. Thanks so much for that. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think about that in the comments. I'd love to know. Crystal M. Crater, Crater. I hope I said that right. Yay, it's so great to hear you share your crafting background. I actually have several of your patterns because of Forbidden Fiber Co.'s mystery boxes over the years. Such fabulous designs. I look forward to your next podcast. Oh, thank you, Crystal. I'm so grateful that you feel that way. I love working with Forbidden Fibers, obviously, because I just showed you I'm going to be doing another pattern in her yarn. And I'm the designer for the Clue mystery box this month. So if you purchase that, that's me for the crochet pattern. And I'll also be the designer for, I don't know if it's still on sale, I'll check. And if it is, I will put the link in the show notes. But for her 12 Days of the Resistance that you should be getting sometime in December, I'm the crochet designer for that mystery box as well. I love Forbidden Fibers. Leanne is great. And if you haven't checked out Forbidden Fibers, make sure you go to her website and check it out. I'll put her link in the show notes as well. Judy's Creations and Crochet 2710. That's Judy. I know Judy well. She's part of my crochet crew. She said, I like the scarf you're wearing. Looking forward to getting that pattern. And so hopefully, Judy, you were able to get the pattern. I'm so glad you really like this one. This is one of my favorites that I've done in the last few years. So I'm really excited that you like it. Thanks for commenting. Patty Greer 9476 says, hi, Karen. I have never crocheted socks, but I am very interested. I also knit and have knit socks in the past, so anxious to hear more about that. Thank you, Patty. I'm actually, so if you're not on my newsletter, make sure you are, or you can actually go to my website, KarenWhooley.com, and check out the blog right now, because there are posts right now that are talking about socks. And if you also follow me on Instagram, I've been doing little reels on different parts of the socks. So make sure you check that out as well. But thank you for leaving a comment. And that's true with everybody. Check out my blog, check out my newsletter. I'm always happy to show things. So if you have a question about socks, leave them in the comments or send me a note in email. I'd love to get those. I just have a couple more here, I think. Amber Cooper 1031. Oh my goodness, my daughter loved that your bunny is named Simone, just like her. I love this first episode. And thank you so much, Amber. She and I had chatted. My son actually named our bunny Simone. She is a Jersey woolly rabbit. It's a fiber rabbit. And we were just talking about how we named her. I don't even know how he named her, why that name became her name, but it's just something that he popped into his mind. He was raising rabbits for FFA, and he named his rabbit Simone. So thank you so much. I love the name Simone, and I'm so glad your daughter got a kick out of that. And then Michelle 3649 said, I really enjoyed this podcast, Karen. It was very interesting. I'm glad you reminded me of your spooky shawl. I'm going to make it really very soon. Michelle's part of my crochet crew as well. And this was one of the free patterns they got last year. So I'm so excited that she wants to make it now that I reminded everybody about it. So don't forget, this is out there it's available now on my web, in my shop. You can go to my patterns and then down to my shawls, and you can find it. It's the very first one there. It should automatically just come up as the first pattern in there. But it's called the Spooky Shawl, or the Spooky Web Shawl, sorry. And it is available right now. And if you're a newsletter subscriber, you've got a coupon for 35% off. So that's pretty much it today. But guys, I just read a whole lot of comments. I really love getting your comments. So please, if there's anything I talked about today that you want to leave a comment about, please do. I always go back and read them as soon as I can every day. I go in at least twice a day and check my comments. But if you're not comfortable leaving me a comment, make sure you use the email address that I'm putting in the show notes as well. And you can send me a longer note there if you want to share a story. Next week, I should have some more things to show. I have a few things coming into the studio that I'm excited to share. So hopefully they'll be here before I record next week. But again, if you have any questions, let me know. You know where to find me. But I will see you next week, episode 3. Talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.